You're watching SBoyTV.
So who we got on the backdrop right now, man? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Peace and love, everybody. You know, come on, man. I'm Hakeem, the people's poet, where rap is an acronym for rhythm and poetry. What up, dog?
I like that. How long did it take you to work on that? That was fun.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. It took me a minute. For a while, I just started off doing poetry, and I always knew that I could be a rapper. So it was like, man, like how am I gonna make rap poetry or poetry into rap? And then it was like I meditated on that, and I was like, rhythm and poetry. Oh, that's rap.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then the way I said it, oh, that's rap. And I'm like, so I just listen to myself, man, and trust my emotions when I'm passionate. So like when I feel that and I notice like when I'm happy, it brightens the room. So, and that's what makes me the people's what makes me the people's poet. So.
I was just about to get into that. That's one of my questions, man. I always say like, man, your energy is high level. You always smiling. You always happy. Where does that stem from?
My pain. My pain. Like recognizing that like, shit, I'm hurt. You know what I mean? And I know hurt people, but that's cliche. That's a niche that we always used to hearing. Like, for an example, we got mind, body, soul. Like when we supposed to be soul, mind, body. Like, so I hear that when hurt people, I don't gotta hurt people. Like I could be healing the healer. You feel me? So everybody needs to be healed, and everybody needs some form of healing. Like, and everybody can heal. Right. So like, what is those aspects? And I realized that like, even though I'm hurt throughout the day, I ain't gotta show it. Embrace it with a smile. Mm. And if I can embrace myself with a smile and share that with other people, no matter what they going through, it can enlighten somebody else's day.
It's fire, man.
It's like it's the ideology of speaking life into people. You know what I mean? Like, or speaking life in general. You know, everybody on demon time. Like, or something be good as hell. Like, don't nobody want to go to hell, but we say good as hell.
Right.
But we pray heaven on earth. Like, why are we saying good as hell? Right. Good as heaven. Oh my goodness, heavens. Or heavens no. You know what I mean? Or heavens yes. You know what I'm saying? Or the hell no. Or hell yes. Like, let's switch the narrative.
Oh, I like that. I like that, man. So when did this journey of poetry start for you?
That's a poem within itself, actually. But I'm gonna just say the first lines of that poem. It all started when she told me, you have stomach hands and everything you touch will tend to disintegrate. So I was in a relationship with a poet, and I was a motivational speaker. This is before I was even doing poetry. The first poem I wrote was in the 8th grade, and I got an F on it. And I was like, well, how are you gonna grade? And this poem is for Mother's Day.
Wow.
Do you see what I'm saying? So it was, and I'm like, how you gonna give me an F on my emotions to my mama? And me explaining that to her in the 8th grade, she gave me a C because she told me it was like a 5th grade poem instead of an 8th grade poem. So I was like, wow. So ever since then, I started writing poetry. But I always knew that I wanted to inspire or help other people. Or I was still a little kid. You know, I don't know how I'm gonna help people. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I wanted to do something. Right. So that was. I don't want to get too deep into the story, but until I was doing a lot of motivational speeches and doing a lot of workshops and stuff, and I was letting her do her poet thing. But one day we used to argue, and she used to just write in her book. And I'm like, why are you writing a book? Like, just talk to me, because the book ain't gonna speak back. It ain't gonna solve this issue. So I just allow her coping mechanism. And when she came back like nothing happened. But after a year or so in a relationship, it's like, yeah, we ain't finna just keep allowing this to happen. So I read her book. And when I read the book, she was like, oh, you invaded my privacy? And I was like, I kind of did. I'm sorry. But like, this is how you felt about me for 2 years since we've been in a relationship. And like, she was like, and she burnt the book in the middle of the living room until the fire touched her hands. And she was telling me, you got stomach hands and everything you touch will tend to disintegrate. And when the fire almost like covered her hands, she threw the book out the window on flames. And I wanted to be like, you got me, just give her to her. But I'm like, no, I ain't gonna do that. So I stayed quiet and just was amazed how you are. Like, what? I can't believe this really happened. No, this has really happened. And I'm sitting there looking like, can't believe it. So I just wrote down my thoughts. And I read it to my best friend. And he was like, oh, you a poet now? I'm like, bro, I ain't doing poetry. I just wanted to be vulnerable and express myself. And he was picking with me. So ever since then, I became a poet.
Wow. I did not expect you to say that story. Like, I thought it would have just been like, no, I've been always doing this. You know what I'm saying? I was always a writer growing up.
Nah,
That's amazing, bro. That's
I
dope.
was. She used to tell me I was a poet in action,
Mm,
and I was like, "What does that mean?" She was like, "Every time in the midst of the moment, you will say something poetical, and
mm,
it'll move me, or it'll move somebody, and I just be watching you." And that relationship was very seasonal.
yeah.
And in that poem, it's a whole different expression of how I expressed that relationship. Like I thought it was a blessing, but it was certainly a curse. I learned this lesson that, and it goes into that piece. But
Mm,
like I learned, even though it felt like I was going through so much turmoil, it was seasoning me to become who I am today. Like,
yeah.
yeah. And I
So
feel like that's what we do with our relationships.
yeah. So now do you feel like that is true, like poetry in action?
Being a poet in action. Yes, you know what I'm saying. I'm many hats. Like I'm a community activist. I like to ride horses. I'm an equestrian.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that word till I became an equestrian. You know what I'm saying? So, and from the east side of Detroit too, born and raised, went to
Yeah.
Denby High School. Like I'm in the hood. You feel me? Six and Kelly,
Mm,
in the red zone. You know what I'm saying? That's where I grew up at. So it's like riding horses, nigga. Like, you know what I mean? So it's this experience has just been kind of like this experience that we all call life. It's been moving me. So I'm not just a poet in action. I'm a community activist. I am the people's poet. And to be
yeah.
the people's poet, I have to be a member of the people. And yes, that shit get hard. I can't lie. Like, cause you have to self-assess all the time.
Mm,
Like, cause a lot of my old bad habits, you know what I mean? Like we all have toxic traits. We all have flaws. And I don't have no problem talking about my flaws or talking about my toxic traits
mm,
and learning about my healing process. And with that being said, I know that I can't fake it until I make it because I'm not a pretender.
right.
So if I'm gonna be the people's poet, I'm gonna be the people's poet. I'm gonna try to figure out what does it mean to serve my people. Like there's a problem, what's the solution? And how can I best serve that solution? So when you ask me, am I a poet in action? I feel like I'm always in action. I'm always in movement. So
Yeah.
it's trying not to be stagnant.
Okay. I
Or
thought
don't be a hamster in a hamster wheel too,
mm,
because you could be moving and be a hamster in a hamster wheel, just working out for yourself
yeah.
and not working out for the people. So I had to learn that balance too. So I don't know.
Yeah. Man, I thought it was really dope that you got the people's poet in your name, right? Because I spoke with a couple poets, man, and they mentioned how they feel like Detroit isn't so receptive to poetry like
Mm,
they are to music.
mm.
And to see you say you are the people's poet, do you ever feel like the people aren't always receptive to it though? Especially you being east side of Detroit, Denby High School, all that good stuff. Like, do you feel like people receive poetry like they receive rap here?
Listen, I mean this in the humblest way possible. Um, like I said, I believe everybody has a purpose, and God moves in passion and rest in reason. You not going if you don't like me and you don't like poetry, you have no choice but to sit down and eat it.
Mm,
Like I have to force feed you. You know what I'm saying? You're like a lot of times, a lot of people don't know what they need. A lot of times, people don't even want to accept it. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna find people in your life where you they don't want to hear that shit. Like, bro, all right, where's the beat at? Like, you
mm,
know what I'm saying? But nobody has never done that to me. You know what I'm saying? And I thank God for that because I'm fully passionate about what I do. Like, and if you a person that ain't listening, I'm gonna walk up to you and be like, hey, my mans, stare you down in your face, like, check me out. And you gonna hear me. And everybody in the room looking at me and you. Now the show is about me and you. You know what I'm saying? The show isn't about everybody else who's listening. This
mm.
show is about people who aren't and people who won't get the message. So, and I pray that the person that I'm interacting with, that they receive it well. And if they do, most times that they do, because I'm not coming at you like how most rap niggas are talking, like, F your girl, and then want you to still listen to their music. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Talking about, I take your girl, I make this much amount of money, talking about and glorifying themselves, and then expect niggas to still hear that music, even though, like, but if you feel the way he feel, then people will listen to their music. But
Right.
if you don't feel that way, then why would I listen to you? So if I'm in your face and I'm talking, God put us here in order to create and da 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 da, and the rainbows and the stars and da 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 da. You like, all right, where you going with this, bro?
Right.
Oh, you talking about me and you? Dang, okay. And I could see him or her loosening up as I'm communicating with them because I'm not speaking negativity, I'm speaking life. So
Yeah,
I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. It goes into this too. So spotlight is on Detroit music scene right now, right? It's heavy. The spotlight is there. The people is
Definitely.
loving Detroit music. Do you feel like uh the poets in Detroit are still getting that same spotlight too?
When you ask that question, it's crazy because, bro, in 65 years, we'd have had the Grammys. But the 65th year, Jay Ivy and a whole bunch of other great poets have paved the way for the Grammys for poets to create their own lane. Like, what? So when you say the poet scene, bro, like you either gotta get with it or get lost because poetry, bro, started music. Like if it wasn't for the poets, like rhythm and poetry, like if it wasn't for poets actually putting music or putting instrumentation behind their art or behind their passion, man, I don't think rap would look like what it is today. And a lot of times, due to people being vulnerable and people having this poetical side of themselves, because poetry can be anything and anything can be poetry. Shout out to Caesar Toriano, which is another Detroit legend that says that. You know what I mean? That's his tagline. My tagline is rap is an acronym for rhythm and poetry. So if poetry could be anything and anything could be poetry and you got rhythm behind it, why are you not rapping? You know what I'm saying? That is rap. And people, and you gonna find your people, which is the people's poet. You gonna find your village. So I believe it's so much going on right now, bro, in regards to poetry. Like I believe we paved the way, and the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And it's time for us to make a movement. So I have, it's something coming, bro. It's coming. Like you either you gotta get spoon fed, bro. You gotta get spoon fed. Oh, I didn't know. Babies that cry get the bottle. And everybody crying. This is a season where everybody's crying. Everybody wants something. Somebody got to have something. My grandma tell me, get what you can get and can while all you can. Like, get what you can get and can while all you can. And everybody's crying. Everybody's trying to get something. Everybody canning while all they canning. So it's like, why not me?
Yeah.
Why not?
I like that, man. Wow. So I know you mentioned riding horses too, man.
Yeah.
I want you to expound on that, man. How did you get into that?
So shout out to my pops, man. After he passed away, I had took a break. I used to say dropping out, but I took a break from school because my pops was keeping me there. He like, man, I'm living through school through you. And I was like, dang, man, it's just because I used to tell him all the time how I'm quitting. And, like I realized that I don't have to be here to do what I want to do in life. Like, I think I got the information I needed. Like, even though I got the information I needed, the degree was what people want you to have and what they think you need. But the information is what I got. Like, who said it? Master P said it. He said he graduated college in a month. He said he had one assignment the professor gave him. He said, what was McDonald's selling? He was selling hamburgers, French fries. He was like, no, selling consistency. Like they got the same taste, same burgers everywhere you go. And he was like, dang, since I known that, I realized that I'm a businessman. All I got to do is sell them consistency. No matter what I'm selling, just sell it to them. So it's like, okay, cool. So that's what I got to do. So it's like when I got the information that I needed, it was like, okay, let's go. And then I was like, nah. And then people around me told me to stay. And I'm glad that I did because I fought for my education. But to go back into the story of the horses, after I took my break, I was checking my emails and Mama Sandra Turner Handy. Yes, I'm name dropping. Sandra Turner Handy. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't even be the people's poet, like, if it wasn't for her. You know what I'm saying? Putting me into community engagement when I was 16, 17 years old. Like, community engagement, I design and build the $5 million park next to my high school. It was a senior portfolio project that we all did. It was 201 seniors, and we all collectively decided to just remake our school. But Sandra Turner Handy, while I was through depression, you know what I'm saying? I called her. She was like, oh, there's this project that, that y'all did when y'all was kids. And I wanted you to be the leader, the community engagement leader for that project. So yeah, there's horses, like it's a long story, man. When you ask me a question about how I got to horses, because I've had so many pivotal changes in my life that led me to horses and led me to more spiritual growth. You know what I'm saying? So as I'm doing all these things within community engagement, I'm like, I just need to do more. Like that was one spark in my life that was pretty dope. And that was in 2016. It's 2017 now. What am I gonna do? Like that was big. Like I need something big again. Like what am I doing? And that's why I just took a break from school. Because I felt like I'm just going to school. I'm just going through the motions. And I'm not feeding myself what I actually need. So I was checking my email. Sandra turned it handy. Sent me another email for Detroit Horsepower. And I was like, dang, I'm looking through the emails, and I'm like, through the job descriptions. And I was like, all the job descriptions fit me, from program manager to executive director pieces. I'm like, dang, I could be all of those, but I don't know nothing about horses. I'm still gonna apply to every last one of them. I applied to every job. I didn't get hired for none one of them. And after I got the interview, they made a position for me. So I ended up getting paid as an intern, Grow Detroit Young Talent, and for 150 kids, 10 to 15 kids a week for 15 weeks. The first week, it was the third day, they asked me to go get a horse. Remind you, they've already gave me the rundown. They didn't gave, this is where the hay at, this is where the the halters and da-da-da-da. Remind you, these words, okay, that's the leashes. But it was called a halter. Okay, those are the leashes. Those are the thingamajiggers that you put the saddle with. Okay, all right, bow. Okay. Third day, like, go get a horse. I'm like, remind you, this is a white ran organization. I'm the only black person on staff. And I'm nervous about it because I'm like, go get a horse and bring it to the front with all those other horses in that wild open field by myself. But then I thought to myself, on the walk of the valley in the shadow of death, man, on the walk all the way to the pasture, it was probably like only a half of a block. So I'm walking and I'm thinking to myself, like, if I don't get this horse and bring it back, what purpose do I serve for these kids? The children, the youth of Detroit, not kids, because we don't have baby goats, but for the youth of Detroit, like, why am I here? Why am I representing the face of Detroit for the youth of Detroit? And I can't get this horse by myself. And even though I've never been around them. And they trusted me to go get this horse. And I'm supposed to be the leader. And I can't go get this horse. And then what makes so bad, I'm teaching character traits, the perks, perseverance, empathy, responsible risk-taking, confidence, self-control, the perks of life, right? And I'm teaching these things, or supposed to be teaching these things in the future for these next 14 weeks. And I can't go get this horse. Man, go get that dang on horse. So I went back there, and when I finally talked myself into it, I'm at the gate. So I'm standing at the gate, and I'm looking at this horse. The horse walking up to the gate, and I'm like, "Oh, you kind of know it's your time." All right. So let me open up the gate. The horse backed up. I'm like, "Cool." Close the gate because I don't want all the other horses to run out. Okay. Taking a deep breath. I got the leash at the time. It's a halter. I got the leash at the time, and I'm like, all right, this thingamajigger go around this down here. All right, come on. And the horse didn't move. And I'm like, oh, shit. Man, you supposed to be moving, man. I don't know what's going on. Is it you? Is it me? And then he bowed his head down. And I'm like, do I call somebody? Because this horse don't want to move.
Right.
You bring a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. I guess that's what that means. So I laughed at myself.
Right.
So I took everything off. And the horse did like this. And I was like, what's that? Okay. All right, let me try it again. And I put it close to him, and he put his head down. So I was like, are you trying to put your head in here? So I was like, okay. So I put it around his nose, and then I put it behind his ears, and he shook his head. And I said, let's go, Doc. And Officer Doc walked on out that gate. And I was like, you taught me how to put the halter on.
Oh,
so
dope.
Since then, I was like, man, when you listen to yourself and you're intuitive, like, and you trust yourself, like horses teach you that, like to not only trust yourself, but trust them as well. And that's nonverbal communication. We talking about things that don't speak the same language we do, but nonverbal communication is what everybody speak. Feelings, emotions is what everybody speak. Love, hate is what everybody speak. So it's like in everything, and you learn that while interacting. So, and a lot of times we don't interact because we don't have access or we too scared to.
Mm.
And with horses taught me like to be able to share that, share that experience, which is why I right now currently I'm working with Magnolia Stables, which is a Black-owned equestrian center.
Mm.
Black-owned equestrian center. One more time for the one time. Black-owned equestrian center.
That's right.
Located in Howell, Michigan. And I created a program called Ride Along Detroit to be able to create access for inner city youth to be able to ride horses at least one time in their neighborhood.
That's fire.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you, bro.
That's amazing, man. Wow. I was just about to ask you, what are you doing to be able to get that access? And you just answered it, man. That's amazing.
Man, it's a blessing. Thank you, bro.
Man, wow. So what advice would you give to somebody that's 16 right now, man? Cause that's the age you said when you first got going, right?
No, I started poetry, like becoming the people's poet in 2017.
How old was you then?
So I was 17 in 2014, 19, 20.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like that transition from high school.
Yeah, and I was in college around that time.
Yeah.
Around-
Okay. So yeah, what advice would you give to somebody right there, man?
Even we can go from 16 too.
Yeah, do 16.
At 16 years old, I feel like in that point of life, you be like, I'm grown. Relax. Relax. Literally. And say it just like that. Relax. Like, take a deep breath, bro.
Yeah.
And even for myself, inhale, then exhale. And think about what that means to you. Like being inhale and then being exhale. When you be inhale, you're taking a deep breath, but also it phonetically inhale. Like, don't nobody want to be inhale. So you let it go. Breathe, exhale, get out of hell. Let it go and release. Do all that you can do and find balance in between both. So remember to breathe. Remember that all your passions have logic. So plan. You wasn't everything that you wanted to do when you were young or right now in this age, you can still do it. There's so much time, but there's no time at all. So if it ain't aligning with what you want to do, let it go. So yeah, you like that pretty girl. Yeah, you like that handsome guy over there. But that handsome guy or that pretty girl might not be for you because they're not aligning within your purpose. So keep a blind eye to your temptations, and die to the flesh every day. And man, do you know how hard that is? Like even right now, me saying this and me being positive right now on camera, like it's so easy to just spill out, but it's so hard to do. And I fall victim to it every day, of not dying to the flesh, going into my temptations. But as long as I remind myself to give myself grace, because nobody gonna fight for you like you will fight for you. That's why you are so hard on yourself. But at the same time, give yourself grace. And in order to do that, write a checklist or something, or put some goals. And maybe you might forget the goals, but at least you planted the seed for yourself to at least, I did that before. I remember when I was 16, you 25 right now. I remember when I was 16, I did that. And it did a little something, and people keep telling you to go back to it. And you go back to it, and then you try it again, and then you actually stick with it this time. And then that time, you met a $5 millionaire when you were 16, but that millionaire disappeared. And now what you gonna do now? You can't reach them, you can't contact them, so what do? You go back to the drawing board. My mentor told me, purpose, process, execute, then profit. In layman's terms, purpose, process, execute, profit. You feel me? That was wrong hand signs. Purpose, process, execute, profit. 4 steps. So you create your process, your purpose. Like, why? Why are you doing this? Then create a process to get it done. Execute it. And then if you don't get the profit, go. Don't change your purpose. The first rule is never change your purpose. Don't change your why, but your process. And then execute. Process, execute. Process, execute. Process, execute. Until you get the profit that you want. And when you get the profit that you want, don't settle. Because there's more to give and more to get.
Wow, man. That's amazing.
Damn.
The people's poet dropping gems for the people, man. Man, tell the people where they can follow you at, man, where they can stay connected with you, man.
For sure, man. Y'all can follow me at Hakeem the People's Poet on all platforms. Stay tuned because I got some music on the way. And there's a whole bunch of ride-alongs this spring and this summer. We got about 100 opportunity for 150 kids to come out and ride with a real national cowboy. You know what I'm saying? Not just myself, but Jamon Turner. And we got just so many great things coming up. So just stay tuned and follow me because I can't be me without y'all. Like, why would I name myself the people's poet if there's no people behind me and if I'm not spreading myself in multiple different avenues? So come on, man, check out, man, and see what we doing. Peace and love.
Let's get it.